He tells the story of a time when he and his family lived without trouble. But sadly, the war wiped out those memories, leaving him without them. On any ordinary day in a city, a missile streaks through the sky and vanishes in a flash of fire that wipes everything clean, leaving only a few broken pieces of what used to be humanity. The first thing he ever remembered was a city buried in gray ash and choked with the smell of burning smoke. Across the street, the boy spots a woman with a pale, defeated look staring blankly at nothing. Yet those memories remain hazy, clouded by the smiles and the strong shoulders he once rested against. Even though things were hard, the picture of loving parents stood out clearly until they finally showed up, stepping right out of the worst parts of life. They were known as gods. The mighty God speaks and calls humans his little lambs. The gods order their people to worship them as new masters who will lead them to a fresh world. New civilizations will rise again, built with the gods' blessing. Anyone looking for help brings their friend to the holy place. 15 years after the events, the protagonist clutches his family's photo as a grieving man tells the boy they have finally arrived and asks him to follow. The gods gave humanity back the centuries of work we built ourselves in just a few days. This is the holy home of the golden god, Bar Eric. A being greets the visitors. When the creature asks if the guests are worthy, the hero replies that getting into the sanctuary is a dream everyone shares. But there are just two paths left to take. One way to do it is by making a sacrifice, and that is exactly what the man does. Another path is to give yourself up as a sacrifice, while the priest escorts the slave trader in as other men seem to take the protagonist. Our hero thinks he's too late, but it doesn't matter since he isn't running for the sanctuary. He's racing to meet the gods because he vividly remembers the last time he was with his lost family. They promised mercy, love, salvation, justice, and kindness. So the protagonist seeks out every god in the world to cast them all into hell. In another corner of the city, the same man wanders through the streets until he spots a bar and steps right inside. The man asks the bartender for a good drink, and as the bartender mixes it, he notices the man is new in town and admires how everything in the city of the golden god is made of gold. A warm welcome drink is poured into a golden cup. The man wonders if the god Bar Eric can make gold, but the bartender shakes his head, saying outsiders often make that mistake. In truth, the god's true power is to turn anything, from water or rock to even those outside their circle, into pure gold. A sacrifice must be made, but if that offering pleases them, the gold reward is enormous. If not, the gold still arrives, just in smaller amounts. The man asks what makes the god give more or less reward, and the bartender lightly replies that Bar Eric has a hobby of collecting art. Art object number 216 shows a man dancing with pure rage. Here is another art piece, number 1087, showing a child singing in plain language. Bar Eric asks with a huge grin if those statues are cool. The protagonist sits tied to a chair and says nothing. The god asks one more time if the boy liked them, but Bar Eric already knows the answer just by looking at his face, and since he agrees that they aren't worth it, he simply tosses the statues aside so they shatter on the floor. They've grown weary of old men and children, and his followers always show up with easy targets to catch. It has been a long time since Bar Eric saw a hero like ours, and with a nod, the god points to a bare spot on the shelf, marking the very spot in the middle where strong men like our hero belong. With trembling hands and a racing heart, Bar Eric is finally crazy about finishing his collection. But to the god, something felt very wrong. Something sitting on the shelf is really bothering him. Bar Eric admits he should have left 2 spots empty. Every single piece belongs to a man who was hurt. It's common for a hunted person to get hurt, yet Bar Eric has never been sacrificed as cleanly as the protagonist. The god of gold finally realizes the hero is with the man who gave him up as a sacrifice. The man on the radio tells the hero that God can turn anything into gold. Bar Eric spots a bug in his offering's ear, picks up the device, and remarks that while he knew some troublemakers existed, he never imagined one would dare show up before a god. Then he smashes the transmitter. Bar Eric chuckles as they get way too confident after knocking out just a few small enemies. So the god challenges the hero. With a simple touch, his skin begins to glow gold as the divine voice challenges him to prove what he can do. But he must move fast because in just 5 minutes, our hero will freeze into a statue. Our hero wonders if trapping bodies in gold while slowly stealing their souls is how the magic works. Bar Eric confirms he is exactly who he says he is, though the protagonist has no soul and can choose to check himself, which makes the god of gold suspicious that the hero is plotting something. Bar Eric taps the boy's forehead with a finger, leaving the spirit of the god so confused it can't tell what just happened to it. The main character wonders if God is upset because his soul has vanished. It wasn't just sold, it was definitely sold. The boy stands there, facing a huge monster. He embraced every demon so he could bring down the gods. the evil creatures dive right through his forehead and vanish into the nothingness. Bar-Eric has no clue what Bar-Eric means by void. The god of gold has never heard of such a thing. The most urgent task now is figuring out what to do with a person who has no soul. Bad luck. Bar-Eric has found his answer. The boy thinks his collection is worthless. Right after, the celestial being punches the hero hard, slamming his face into the ground. There's one more thing. Wanting to beat the gods is like shouting against the sky, a sin that can't be forgiven. Bar-Eric unleashes his power to blast the boy. God tells the broken boy that nothing can destroy a divine being. Bar-Eric thought the boy was full of tricks and probably working for another powerful spirit. The god commands his high priest to find out who the boy served. As Bar-Eric shouts for his men to chase down the man who brought the sacrifice, he fails to notice the protagonist rising up. Then the boy steps up from behind and repeats the god's words that nothing can stop a divine being. Maybe they should try that out then. Suddenly, our hero calls forth a fiery beast named Pavaka. Then fire devours Bar-Eric's arm and melts half of his golden face away. The god signals his followers to charge at our hero. Right now, Braz is the big bad demon everyone is talking about. Before anyone could react, every soldier was cut into pieces. Pavaka brings such huge pain that Braz inflicts agony on a scale nobody else could ever reach. The cost of demon power is pain, but our hero pushes through it while the enraged barrier screams at the audacity of a human daring to challenge him. The god of gold finally took the boy's words seriously, and true to his bold nature, the hero declared that even a horde of weak demons would never be enough to bring him down. With no other option left, he summons the mighty demon lords. With this, he will reveal exactly what hell looks like. As the man at the bar wonders about his partner right now, he watches her stand over the defeated soldiers. Drowsing in a daze, he spots his father, mother, and brother before jolting awake to the heartbreaking reality that they are gone. Our hero clutches his father's shirt in anger over what happened to his family, only for a stranger to approach and say that losing someone dear isn't rare these days. Even as hunters chase their own kind just to get into the sanctuaries. Even as humans pray to the gods for help, they still live in hell. The man honestly wonders if there's any hope that the world can change. But that question made the boy so angry his fists were clenched. He doesn't just want things to change. He wants everything to fall apart. The man laughs and says that's right, and there's no way to change it. Then the man says his name is Walter, the leader of the Eastern non-believers, who has vowed to tear everything down and start again. Walter tells the story of how he found a dangerous object that could kill the gods, which brought him here to meet you, a child picked by the empty void to be a living weapon, and after he hands you the dark artifact, you agree to take up the fight. Bar-Eric doesn't see anything special about humans using a demon's powers. To the god, the weapon's origin is irrelevant, and even a mortal is just another immortal. Bar-Eric shows up as a giant made of gold, and the god claims that inside his holy place, he is all-powerful and in total control. Our hero feels a rush of excitement when his rival finally starts fighting back. The golden giant roars to life and readies its strike. Everyone who stands against the rules must be knocked down. A sudden flash of golden light explodes right where the hero stood. Bar-Eric taunts his opponent about suffering forever for being an unbeliever, but our hero calls on Braz one last time and cuts the golden god in half. But right now, the boy has pushed himself as far as he can go. Bar-Eric's voice warns that the unbeliever will keep fighting right until the very end. God plans to see just how many times the hero can rise from the dead. The giant's shape shifts again as Bar-Eric vows to smash our hero to pieces. Now fueled by fresh power, the golden giant tears everything apart in a blinding burst of golden light. One priest claims the god is taking things too far. Not long after, the temple begins to crumble down around them. People in the city feel the ground shake under their feet and wonder if the great Bar-Eric is to blame. While a follower of the god of gold lies out cold, a foot steps in and lifts his golden mask. The bartender stops the man and asks what he is up to with Bar-Eric's followers. The bar owner decides the customer is an atheist and blames him for his god's anger. Walter says that only a moment ago, the bar owner was treating him pretty well. Even though he, like everyone else in the city, gave up his friends just to try to please the gods. As the bartender starts to turn into gold, the leader of the non-believers keeps shouting that these divine beings don't see us as human. To the gods, we are just fleeting sparks of life. Walter turns and walks away, leaving the man behind, while outside the leader of the non-believers is impressed to see that Bar-Eric is stronger than he expected. It seems the god intends to swallow the souls of more than 15,000 of his followers. Through the thick smoke in the distance, you can tell someone is coming. The bike came to a halt, revealing Katie, the girl who raced to save her leader. The captain shouts at the girl for being crazy to show up, but the girl fires right back by calling her own leader crazy too. Kati shares that she hasn't heard from her boss in 5 years, but then the old man suddenly appears to tell her he's heading to war against Bar Eric, and Walter, annoyed at being called old, warns that she's underestimating him if she thinks he'd take on such a fight without being ready. She asks him if he has the weapon needed to take down the gods. The leader tells everyone that what he received is far better than he ever imagined. Walter knew the moment he met the boy named Dale that he was right. The artifact craved nothing more than those eyes. Hopelessness, suffering, hatred, and fear washed over them. Even worse, a burning need for revenge. Anyone who wants to use the artifact has to press it deep into their own heart. The boy didn't waste a second deciding to help you. That was how Dale walked right beside death for 5 years without his body ever falling apart. Walter could only guess what that boy's soul suffered in hell. But then Dale plummeted down there and returned from the dead. Caddy freezes at the thought of someone coming back to life, while Walter explains that the boy actually made a deal with the dark. Dale went beyond selling his soul to seek powers against the gods. And when the golden giant rushed forward, the young boy didn't flinch because that very moment was all he had been waiting for. Now, armed with the power of every soul he had swallowed, it turns out that's enough, so Caddy wonders what this special power actually is. Walter realizes that the power of Udale, which can defeat even the gods, is about to begin. Bar Eric stands frozen, unable to speak at the sight of what lies before him. A fiery-crowned being is pulled into the sky by a red hand, fulfilling the golden god's promise so the hero can finally hunt, while Dale begs for the power of the creature they just called down. Meet Agi, the fiery king who rules over hell's unfairness. This is the real power Dale carried all the way from the underworld. When the crown of flames touched him, his body changed right before his eyes. Once you have the power, you can take over the bodies of the Dark Lords. Dale finally takes on his brand new shape. With all that power, the demon laughs with pure joy. Suddenly, the beast lunges forward to strike. It never stops laughing, not even for a second. The tiny beast leaps without fear straight at the giant golden statue. Barrett raises his massive hand, and suddenly an eye opens right in his palm. He catches the demon, but hellfire bursts through his giant hand. The whole arm keeps burning in hell's fire. That monster can't be stopped and there's no one who can beat it. As the demon lunges right up to Bareric's face, he leaps. Dale screams for his body to turn to ash, summoning a blazing giant hand that squashes the golden god like a tiny fly. Bar Eric shrieks in agony as the heat melts him, while the divine being begs for mercy. Unable to withstand the terrible agony of the hellish fire, he begged the demon to make it stop. Walter is thrilled the mission went well, while his partner barely has anything to say about it. Kat isn't sure if that god was truly beaten. The leader whispered that this was just the start. A figure steps out of the thick smoke. The protagonist admits he feels inspired now, then hands over a finger that grew from inside Bareric's body. Walter realizes this might just be a strange echo from the void, hinting that even godlike beings like Dale pull their strength from a world far beyond ours. The hero nods in agreement, but soon his strength starts to fade. Then the boy falls to the ground, completely worn out. Caddy wonders if the boy is gone forever, but the leader says he'll just be sleeping for a few days. Deep inside the Grand Central Sanctuary, a group of people is walking toward the temple. The leader of the believers holds a scroll in his hands. The man stands at the gates and shouts that someone has called him to come inside. All the people bend down and honor the three gods: the little child, the grown man, and the old elder. The middle one shouts that the god of gold has died, but the elder on the left says it was all written in the stars and tells us to stop worrying and keep doing the plan. Then the tiniest child-sized figure orders them to fetch the last ingredient needed for the true god's arrival. The one thing that's gone is the relic of the void. As commanded, the ships set sail on their mission. A truck rolls through the desert carrying the non-believers. Dale keeps on sleeping after the fight. Katie can't help but stare at the old relic with a spark of curiosity in her eyes. She whispers to her captain that the whole story just doesn't add up. The old thing in her hand is likely what let Bar Eric draw power from other worlds. Walter agrees she's right, but something still feels wrong to her. I wondered how her captain could just accept such a ridiculous thing so calmly. She knew the man she trusted would never just accept anything, so she guessed he was hiding something from her. Walter then reveals that it's finally time to share why he now believes in the impossible. Before the First War, he ran research at a giant company called East. There was a strange, forbidden spot in the lab that even the boss couldn't enter. But one day Walter found the door wide open and, driven by curiosity, stepped inside. Even he couldn't make sense of what he saw inside. The room felt weird with walls covered in strange drawings and a printer in the middle that kept churning out papers all by itself. But the most bizarre part was that those papers were just tales of fantasy. Since Walter couldn't make sense of the papers, He copied every word onto his phone. Just as he was about to walk away, the printer suddenly started chugging again. This time, the mystery was hidden in a set of numbers. That's when Walter heard sounds coming from outside. The leader quickly shoved the paper with numbers into his pocket and ran out. Walter holds up the phone with the documents inside. Back then, he thought those words were from a novel, but now he knows exactly what they are. It wasn't just a made-up story. It was a true prediction of the future. The final war, the gods' return, the empty void, and the demons all happened exactly as the prophecy said they would. Caddy then realizes she already knows what those numbers mean. They held the coordinates, the date to find the relic, and the key to Dale's mysterious spot, linking the gods to a prophecy that only Walter could unlock to claim the relic and its bearer. But Cuddy warns that the prophecy ends with Barrick's death, leaving their leader in the dark about what comes next. All of a sudden, something crashes into the truck. A glowing angel caught the speeding car with his bare hands. The creature grinned down at the passengers. Walter is so close to losing consciousness behind the wheel. Caddy was hurt badly in the crash. The truck got trapped between ships and angels, and one of the angelic soldiers was happy because he found the relic. Then he showed Sir Lou the treasure they had finally found. The squad leader tells the soldier that only the relic in the heart matters to the lords, so he can destroy everything else. But before Sir Lou can finish speaking, an angel punches him hard in the face. Walter tells Caddy to keep Dale safe. Suddenly, the angel's arm holding the boy bursts into a fiery explosion. The girl can't help but think it's weird that her boss is so worried about protecting someone who can't even die. The leader warns that we can't bring Dale back until he wakes up. Suddenly, a weird thing snaps shut around Walter's neck. Sir Lou grabs the man who attacked him and hoists him high into the air. Then the angel knocks him flat to the ground with a hard punch. But right after, Sir Lou also gets blasted apart by a shot. Caddy dashes to help her captain, but before she can reach him, two hands snatch both of them up into the air. Another angel is furious that two people who don't believe in her dared to raise their hands against her leader. To him, it feels like a terrible insult because Caddy has no clue who these strangers are, yet their leader claims they come from the central sanctuary. There is no way they can fight those opponents because they hold the power of a lesser god. Sir Lou chuckles at the idea that anyone could know them, while his angel companion tells his men to take on the humans so he can focus on his target. Soon after, the angel bursts through the hero's chest to snatch the relic, leaving his friends staring in stunned silence at the shocking sight. Dale's body begins to crumble and turn to dust like ashes. As Sir Lou shouts that he has finished the mission and is heading back, the central god reveals that his troops retrieve the relic but senses something is off, only for the other god to roll his eyes at his companion's usual bad luck and question why a powerful deity would worry so much. But the other god feels just as uneasy, because from now on there are no prophecies left and no future left to see. An eye opens in the empty darkness for the god who looks like a child, and he feels something is messing with everything. As the ever-watchful one warned about the ruler of the void, he spoke those words while a being fell from the sky. Arms grow all over the angel's body, holding the heart right before Sir Lou vanishes without a trace. The gods claim the hero is dangerous, proving that neither gods nor demons are too strange to understand. A dark shape steps closer to the glowing angels. The gods were eaten away by the endless void. Caddy turns to the captain and asks if that creature is on their side. Walter claims this is the absolute worst situation they could be in. Dale warns that a demon king might take over his body, so the protagonist vows to destroy his own heart rather than let that happen. This creature can never step out into the world, because if it ever does, it will be the end. The hero stands in his most horrifying shape, leaving one angel stunned that Sir Lou is gone, and the other furious that his friend is talking nonsense about a threat the prophecy never warned them about. These elite warriors from the central temple are so powerful that no enemy in the world can ever defeat them. Even though he speaks those words, the angel feels fear seizing his entire body. Not even knowing he was doing it, the celestial finds himself wanting to throw up. He tells his partners to join all their power and strike at once, creating a blast so fierce it would burn down even 1,000 suns, and the new leader orders the angels to rush forward and cleanse their enemy. The ships line up to fire a beam just as the angel army storms forward, lighting up the sky with a blinding crash before flames sweep in to wipe everything clean, leaving the giant angel to ask if it worked while his partner just tells him to shut up. As if nothing ever happened, the protagonist sits cross-legged in the void, waiting for the show to end while the new leader blames his partner for the failure, even though the elite warriors have no idea why their enemy isn't attacking. Cathy is just as puzzled by what's going on, and Walter says sorry to the girl. He should have smashed Dale's heart when he could, just as the girl wondered what strange thing they were facing. The leader told Dale that the moment he stepped back onto Earth, he felt a strong pull inside him wanting to be born again right there. Even in the depths of hell, This beast is feared as a true disaster. As it moves, it eats everything in its path. Once something is swallowed by that beast, it is trapped forever in the endless dark abyss at the very bottom of hell. For that space is the true and infinite void. Kathy shouts that they're free, and Walter realizes they've landed in the empty void. Dale steps forward and declares this is the end, with nothing left to do. The girl wonders if he's still alive, but he tells her that his current state isn't really living since they've all crossed into the world beyond death. Though there's a glimmer of hope because aside from them, only angelic servants remain here, proving the void hasn't swallowed everything yet. Even the sky spirits don't know why the world plunged into sudden darkness. Yet the leader is certain his target is still alive. The angel leader feels insulted that the unbelievers dare to fight him. The sky spirit pulls all his strength into one hand. Then he leaps straight into the empty darkness. Walter yells for everyone to run away because it looks dangerous, but Dale just tells the group to stay and watch. As the angel struggles to hold back the forces around them, the protagonist warns that unleashing such power here will bring terrible results. Since the empty space is also known in hell as the graveyard of demons, it holds that dark title. Caddy wonders if they're in trouble, but Dale reassures her that they're safe since a king of demons is inside him. Agi, the flame king who sleeps on fire, shares his throne with the insect that eats dead flesh, and Malik, the lord who rules twisted souls. Solon Mang is the wandering seeker of knowledge who walks among shadows hidden in mist, while Miley stands as a living taboo and Iroh wields an invisible sword that slices through the stars, alongside others like Noxus. Even though they were eaten by the empty dark and are now just spirits, these beings are still strong enough to hunt gods, and Walter wonders if the demon standing before him is the king who once ruled hell. Cody stares in shock as the gods' elite are being wiped out. The demons are actually eating the angels. Cody finally understands that the protagonist must have been here before and managed to get away once. Even though Dale says no one can leave the void again without the master's permission. Last time our hero got away because he made a deal with the Lord of the Void to feed the hungry demons his own power. As Dale opened his eyes, he discovered he could pull power from the demons of hell. But the Lord of the Void could also move his body, which was always the real goal of eating up the whole world. Ultimately, the master of this place holds the only key to freedom, but since the hero is under his control, the master sees no reason to let them go, leaving Walter trapped with no escape as he refuses to watch the world be destroyed. Dale then asks what they should do since even praying isn't an option. The leader of the non-believers snaps with rage, but just as things are about to turn violent, Caddy steps between them and reminds everyone that fighting won't help while the whole world is falling apart. Caddy stops the hero to check if he has made a deal with the Void. Since that's the case, they need to come up with a new offer they can't refuse, though Dale thinks it's impossible, while the girl refuses to quit and presses him to explain how much power the Lord of the Void will get by eating the whole world. The protagonist is lost on where this is going, but Cody insists there is still one God who hasn't shown up yet. There is a mighty power waiting above, belonging to the one true God who hasn't stepped down to earth yet. Walter asks the girl if she's going to watch the descent of God. Cody insists they must by some time since there's no other choice, even though the girl knows her captain opposes it, because saving Earth from destruction is the only thing that matters right now. Dale decides it's worth taking a shot. She insisted that there was no other way out. The hero presses his thumb right against his beating heart. As soon as the finger pushes into his chest, no blood comes out, only a black shadow appears. Dale lets the black ink flow from inside him to draw symbols on the ground, then drops the last bit down. The tiny black drop shifts and grows into a towering shadow. You can see the worry in Walter and Kat's eyes. Now they stand facing a huge demon surrounded by massive monsters, while the heroes look like tiny specks in comparison. Then the master of emptiness walks right up to them. Dale talks in words that no human has ever heard. The mightiest demon answers back in that same dark tongue. Caddy asks if her captain can understand any of the words, but he doesn't know what is being said either. She asks our hero if everything went okay. A black hand reaches out and points at one of the humans. As shadows rise up from the ground beneath Cuddy and Walter, swallowing them whole, Walter yells for the protagonist, while the girl claims she feels nothing before the darkness finally devours them both. They both wake up completely fine, but they're now in the middle of a desert. Walter searches for Dale, but it's the girl who finds him instead. Suddenly, the empty space pulled back and gave the hero's body back to him. Now they must wait to see what happens before heading back to the base of the Eastern Branch's non-believers. Two guards chat about how the whole place is falling apart, noting that even Cuddy has run off and vanished just like the leader did. Walter's tale of wandering the world to kill the gods caused half the group to quit. Suddenly, both guards spot something coming their way. A shadow moving through the rain reaches the base, and the guard lifts his binoculars to watch who is coming. They realize it's Captain Walter. That's when everyone heard the captain was back and the gates flew open. Caddy feels the air is thick and unwelcoming. Simon stood there with a grin, taking them in without trying to hide his surprise. Walter shakes his head, saying his friend hasn't changed a single thing all these years. Suddenly, every man in the crowd turned their guns on the heroes. Simon explains that this is just normal these days because many secret traitors have been hiding among the faithful lately. Besides, a lot of things have changed since the captain walked away. A machine was built to spot anyone who doesn't believe, and those who fail the test get killed on the spot. Cade can't believe the captain is being treated this way, so Simon tells the girl to calm down. Walter chuckles at the irony that they're now executing people instead of sending them away, and he even asks the crew if the shareholders really approved of this and who's calling the shots as captain now. Simon won't say anything until the old boss takes his test, and that leaves Caddy shaking with worry. Walter refuses the test because it feels like killing two believers, which makes him just as guilty as those who live in the sanctuary. The ones who really deserve to be put to death are the gods. Simon told us that nobody there thinks a god can be killed. Cathy says she watched a god fall with her own eyes. Simon can't help but wonder what on earth this girl is talking about. Walter smashes the protagonist to the ground and declares that he is the weapon capable of destroying the gods. But for Simon, none of their words make sense because he only sees a boy. With nobody believing the captain's words, he asks to bring the boy to the lab. Walter has to get the protagonist's blood, which is why the leader returned to the base. Simon questions why he should let that happen. Walter asks him to think about why he'd ever come back after all this time. Turns out the boys aren't the only ones who can kill gods. With Dale's blood, anyone can tap into the demon's power for an hour, a fact that leaves both Simon and Caddy stunned. Walter tells the man to tell the elders and other leaders that the plan is finally starting and the god hunters are ready. Everything is in place and the plan is finally ready to go. Dale claims the real god will come down to Earth, and the hero must chase him down to give up his power as a sacrifice. The master of the empty spaces warns our hero that he's become too proud. He is so sure he can beat the true god that he thinks a handful of demons is all he needs. Dale starts to feel like the whole deal has gone wrong. The master of the void claims the world won't be destroyed yet, and the peace living inside the hero will save at least 2 cities. Our hero finally sees that the demons still can't destroy the world. Dale then asks the Void Lord why it wants to show up on Earth. Then the creature points its claw at the prize it wants. The dark hand makes the 2 people with Dale shrink away because the void knows it still needs them. The demon is just stalling, buying itself a little more time before it finally ends. Not knowing what was happening, the boy asks if the monster is saving them, but the demon explains that just as Dale needs him, the void needs the hero too. The hero will become the piece that opens the door for the void to enter the world. After the boy finally figures out his part in the game, the demon whispers of an ancient tale older than time itself, splitting the world's end into 2 halves. Across the triple world and the 6 realms above, below, and in between, 2 powerful forces each with their own goals were always at play. The endless one who hunts for forever and craves the end of everything, the void. For countless ages, the souls born in this world were pulled by 2 powerful forces, shaping 2 new beings in the realms above and below. And because of humans, the real god and the empty void came into being. Born from the human spirit, the Dale people were created to bring life to a cold void world that seeks to destroy everything living. This is the war that will end the world, so Dale must win with the demon's guidance, fighting however he wants while wearing Walter's face to start the plan. Then Dale's face is the vessel for his power, and finally, Caddy is the spark that will ignite his will. This world has to crumble and mix with the endless void. Our hero just says he doesn't care about the gods fighting. He can't figure out why both the whole world and his own family have to pay the price. To our hero, the demon is a traitor for dragging humans into this endless war. The Void Lord's guardians told Dale to hide his horns, or their master might be angry. Gripping the hands of 2 giants, the hero begs them to stay out of this. Once more, Dale wonders why we must use living creatures instead of letting the demons handle their own fight. And the truth is, only human souls can pass between the realms. In the end, the Lord of the Void promises that the hero's desire for revenge will come true. Then the demon steps right up to our hero. He stands face to face and tells the boy that his family can be his again. Suddenly, the horns shrink back down. The demon claims that Dale saw the gold's power with his own eyes. Trapped between death and life, these souls cry out together forever, feeding a god without end. This is eternity's real shape, its deepest wish, and the heart of its strength. The Lord warns that even the protagonist family souls are trapped within the enemy's grip. Dale wonders what the demon is trying to say, and the Lord promises to add a new rule to their deal that ends the hunt for the gods and finishes the hero's revenge. But the final words are so blurry they can't be read. Even Dale can't make sense of the words pouring from him as the shadows swallow him whole. A voice tells him he's moving, his heart starts beating again, and then his eyes open. Then our hero wakes up to find Dale sitting in a chair with wires all over him. Simon stares in shock as the boy breathes again, realizing Walter was right. So our hero nervously whispers, "Who are you, stranger, and where did you come from?" Simon apologizes to the living weapon, yet he wants to test the protagonist first. Just as a robot steps in to let everyone see the boy's power firsthand, Dale ignores the hero's warning and jumps straight at the weapon before Simon can even finish talking. The boy begged to change and suddenly his hands turn black. Then he hits the fighting machine so hard that it falls apart. Dale stands alone, having risen without a single ounce of effort. Our hero, shaking with fear, desperately wants to know who this villain is who caught him, but in a sudden leap, he lands in front of Simon, who begs him to stay calm. Dale is trying to figure out which team the man supports. Most of all, he needs to figure out if he's standing in a holy place protected by a god. A voice informs him that he stands at the eastern base of the unbelievers, the home of those who defy the gods. This person reaches out a hand and confirms that Dale is as strong as Walter claimed. She says her name is Hannah and that she is the boss of the base for those who do not believe. She smiles and says it's a real pleasure to meet him. Hannah sprints through the woods with a friend, but he can't keep up and tumbles down. Hannah begs her sister, who can't walk, to get up quickly or they will be caught. With only a little strength left, the sister grabs Hannah's attention and says something very important. She tells the little girl to run away from the sanctuary as fast and far as she can. Just as she tries to go on, the girl is suddenly hoisted up into the air. No matter what a human tries, a god is too strong to stop. To them, humans are as insignificant as insects, so even striking down the gods who battle them would accomplish nothing. Even the leader of the disbelievers is caught thinking these same thoughts. But then she realizes just how far Dale is willing to go. She stood frozen as the impossible unfolded right before her eyes. Now humans aren't just watching things happen anymore. They've finally found the strength to change their own fate. Hannah runs right to him, the man who brought her joy and built the future everyone said wouldn't happen. Hannah steps forward once more, introducing herself as the leader of the free people who have turned away from the gods. Dale takes her hand and asks where the old man Walter is. Instead of answering the question, the base leader admits the hole in the wall will take time to patch but is thrilled that the protagonist doesn't hold back. Dale pushes for an answer, desperate to know where Walter is hiding. Hannah mentions that her senior is a bit busy but sent a message anyway. Don't take the photo or it will be burned, so just leave it safely at the base. Hannah tells Dale that this place is now his home, so he must protect everything precious he has there. The leader wonders if this is enough proof for our hero to trust them, but since there is only one rough room left for one person, Hannah tells the boy to take a shower and get changed before something strange catches her eye. She's annoyed that the hero's face is hidden by his hair, so she offers to cut it while a pile of trimmed locks sits on the sink. Now changed into his new outfit, Dale finds it a bit tight, but Hannah says that's just how hero clothes are supposed to feel. Then she grasps his hand to lead him toward something new. The protagonist doesn't miss a thing. As they walk through the base, everyone stops and stares at the human weapon. Nobody even bothers to hide how curious they are. Dale leans in and asks Hannah if everyone knows about him. The leader says everyone watched him fight the robot on the big screen because they all needed to see what the god-slaying weapon can do while the battle raged on. Everyone there forgot what it was like, and the leader says the hero brought something vague to the base. It's a feeling you can't quite put into words, but you know it's absolutely real. A hand reaches out to young Hannah. Walter sees in the girl's sad eyes that she has lost someone very dear to her. Hope is the name he gives to this feeling, words Dale repeats to himself over and over. He turns his gaze down to inspect his own hands. The hero wonders if he even counts as hope, but Dale knows the dark truth. Those who serve the void always meet their end. Soon enough, this demon will eat the whole world. The protagonist can't call these powers hope. Hannah reminds us that having big power means having big duties to take care of. She knows the hero made a deal with the empty darkness. The leader tells us her boss warned that the world nearly ended. Hannah casually assures the protagonist that this nightmare will never happen again. The leader says he planted a bomb right in his own heart. She tells him not to worry, because if anything goes wrong, she'll blow him up without a trace. And just in case the first signal doesn't work, there are other triggers to try, so Dale quickly tells her to stop since he already got the message. Hannah presses the button to step into a new room. The leader tells the protagonist to save worrying about the future for later, because right now they have to go hunt the gods. In just a week, the God Hunter Squad's first official mission will finally begin. Dale couldn't believe his eyes at what he was seeing. Walter stands inside the room. The old man was thrilled to see the boy awake with fresh hair, though he barely recognized him as a hero, so Dale quickly asked for an explanation. What are they up to with that strange thing in the tank? Walter reveals that this creature is living tissue grown from the protagonist's own blood. The old man found out that putting Dale's blood inside someone grants them superpowers. But they can't call on dark forces. To tap into hell's power, they must first force a demon into submission. But we can only do that by pulling the serum and the living creature out of our hero's blood. When the soldier shoots the serum and shouts the demon's name, a fake creature will appear. The soldiers who take this shot will be known as the God Hunters, but before they can start, they must fix many problems because taming a demon isn't easy. So Hannah shares a report she just got. From the 140 hopefuls, only 100 earned their spot to begin the risky task of injecting blood. Now, you must inject the serum, speak the demon's true name, and bring it forth. In theory, beating a demon is just about winning the fight, but the 140 brave souls who tried paid a heavy price, with 70 left broken and only one survivor proving the method works. Katarina Basic Kanankati is the first soldier in the God Hunters unit. The scientists say that everything is under control. Katie says she's ready to train all day long. Hugh runs the group of bad guys. The informant asks the girl what their training is for, and she replies that they are there to smash up demons. Then Q explains that today's training is going to be a bit different. The monsters she defeated before were weak, but now she must face ones that are far stronger. Captain Walter says that low-level demons are as strong as a company of soldiers, so a mid-level demon is like a whole battalion. Kay is ready for whatever comes, even if it means she might die this time. But Kati knows she'll win because losing would have happened by now. So she injects the serum and tells Hugh to watch his little sister fight without any control. A loud scream of pain rang out as the serum shot into him. She waits for the informant to say it's the right time to ring the mysterious 8th demon, whose powers are still a secret. Kati tells her brother to shut up and stop talking about resonance. The moment she calls Palak, something strange begins to happen. Kati asks Hugh if everything is okay, and he warns her that something strange is going on because there's more than one soul reacting. It turns out this is just what a whole squad of demons looks like. 12 monsters appear to join the battle. Kati pulls out a knife to fight. She knows there is only one way out now. She has to cut them all down, but right then the creatures leap on top of her. The moment Kati calls for Sai, the cursed blood overtakes her, turning her eyes into a dark pool of shadow. All at once, a dozen evil eyes materialized. Before the claws can reach her, Kati spots them out of the corner of her eye and sweeps through the monsters like a sudden gust of wind. Up in the air, the soldier grabs a rope with a hook at the end, throws it up to the ceiling, and swings away from the monster army. Kati sees that if things stay this way, the fight will never stop. She knows that burning 2 demon powers at once will tear her body apart, but she has no choice. So she calls Anarch down. Then Kati leaps back into the fray, where Anarch's power to boost strength becomes the perfect weapon to take down the horde of enemies. Kati grips her blade with both hands and slices through dozens of enemies in half with just a few quick moves. In a flash, the army of creatures was crushed. There's just one monster left to beat, the big boss at the top of the list. She tells Kati to pull back since they've got the data they need, but Kati ignores the scientist's orders because, as a soldier, she won't run just to save information. The demon lunges at her and barely misses, his claws stopping just a hair's breadth from her skin. The creature was faster than she expected, and now it seemed like something she couldn't possibly manage. Just as she's expecting it, the demon suddenly materializes right in front of her and snatches Kati in an instant. Now, the girl had no other choice left to make. Kati recalls that Walter once told her demons give out their powers based on how much pain their user feels. But everyone has a breaking point for pain, and for ordinary people like her, the most she can ever use at once is just 2 powers. If he doesn't escape, the only choices left are to die or get eaten by the monsters. Even so, Kati calls the fight to begin. Right then and there, she suddenly feels ill. But then another voice calls for Braz, and the demon is chopped into pieces just as Dale saves Kati in the nick of time. The protagonist covers the girl's mouth and asks if she's crazy, while Dale shouts that pain has made her lose her mind. Walter declares that Kati will now stand beside our hero as his partner, admitting she lacks experience but boasting plenty of grit and a fierce fighting spirit. But judging by how things look, they still have a long way to go before they can work together as a real team. Dale lies on his bed, staring at the photo. The Lord of the Void promises to take the protagonist, their family, and their soul to a place where they can finally be free. A knock rattles the door, and someone asks if the hero has stirred from their sleep. Dale steps up to the door to find a scientist named Q waiting there, who says he works for the base. He stopped by just to see what was in Dale's files. While the boy was out cold, the folks at the base gathered every scrap of information they could, and even though he wasn't supposed to see the strange thing, Hugh came back just to check it out. The scientist claims Dale arrived from the east and his family was taken in a holy sacrifice. But here's the strange part. There are no safe havens in the place our hero came from. Now in the east, 3 adventurers are on a dangerous mission. Cody can't figure out why they had to travel all this way just to look for a safe place, because there are likely many reasons for what went wrong. Dale insists there's definitely a god up here, even if most people can't quite see him. He still remembers the place where his family died, a spot guarded by a strange god wearing a dark halo. Q says this news is fresh. Cad knows a god is hunting victims outside the sanctuary, which is why they must investigate. But there's just one reason this could happen. What the 3 of them are seeing on the beach is a leftover mark from the ascension ritual they are trying to finish. Katie stared in shock at the massive creature, wondering if the gods had truly moved their holy home, but the sheer size of it made no sense at all. For a mark this large to remain, it must belong to a god everyone knows, so now all they can do is figure out who it is. It's bizarre that anyone, especially a child, could survive when such a mighty force arrives, and even Dale can't believe his eyes. Our hero notices the ritual trace is far too large since only his parents were used, but Q says it's normal for survivors to have memory issues like that. The young scientist gives a report, wraps up what we've learned, and says our hero must be having trouble remembering things. With all that, it should be enough for them to go back. But Dale won't agree because he remembers every single thing that happened. Just as he's about to finish his words, something slams into him. The hero crashes down as a bullet tears through him, while Caddy instantly pulls out her knife. 2 men in white claimed they only meant to fire a warning shot, but their aim was off and one of them got hit right in the chest. The shooters act relaxed and tell the group to come closer, saying they won't shoot again, while Q asks what his sister plans to do with the believers. Katie grumbled that being stuck without a car meant a 20-kilometer walk back to base, so she thought it might be best to just pray and be grateful for what she had. One of the shooters notices how strange the girl looks and whispers that she's probably furious since her boyfriend just went straight to the afterlife. The shooters urge the group to hurry along, and just as they speak, Cade breaks into a run, while the taller one mutters something about outsiders from beyond the sanctuary. And right at that same moment, the girl appears standing right in front of him. Before he even has a chance to move, she steps forward with her sharp blade. He tells her not to move or he will shoot. Caddy turns to her partner and asks what to do with these guys, but the boss warned them never to kill anyone who believes. The person still holding the gun warns that if the girl stops bluffing, she'll be forced to join her boyfriend. Right then, Dale, hiding behind the shooter, lets Caddy decide what to do with the victim. Startled, the man fired his gun wildly and shouted that the hero was a monster. As bullets fly around Dale, he shouts that if he is the monster, then what about the hunter? So with no choice left, the man begs to be let live. Our hero questions why he should spare a man like him, only to learn that the man has a wife and children. That shock catches Dale off guard, and the man insists he never had a choice. The believer claims God told him that unless he brings a sacrifice by next week, his own family will be the offering instead. So the man asks if the protagonist is an unbeliever, and if the protagonist survives, he plans to join the ranks of the faith too. Before the man can finish, a bullet strikes him. Q pulled the trigger because he hated the whole situation, and the white panels on the neck show how many offerings were made to their god in this southern sanctuary. Besides, priests from the south can't marry or have kids, so everything he sent was just a lie. Q opens the truck's cargo doors to show everyone what the real people living in the sanctuaries look like. A battered group of people sits at the back of the truck. Cody insists the orders were only to kill regular believers, but Q argues the man is a priest, so she spares him to question him instead. As the priest weeps with thanks, the scientist whispers that they can get rid of him later. The priest is clearly taken aback by this final twist. The truck made it back to base safe and sound. Caddy and Dale watch a woman holding her baby. She feeds him with a calm peace that settles everything around them. He stared at her with a look that was hard to read, mixed with sadness. Cody insists that every single reason begins with family. No matter if they are sold, hunted, or caught up in anything else, it all comes down to family. After the gods took their loved ones away, most who didn't believe in them chose to fight back. Captain Walter lost his wife, but for Hannah, that same person was just her sister, and Dale is now asking who exactly lost out. He wonders if she's stuck in this mess with her family, too. Then she says it's just like having another brother. Caddy remembers the day she was hurt, when a bloody man stood among the fallen and looked right at her. That was the brother she loved best. As a final warning, he tells them it would be best if they never see each other again. Cathy vows that when they meet again, her destiny is set, and she will be the one to end his life. Dale is totally lost in this conversation. Standing in the middle of a crater in the north, someone admits they never saw these events coming. The wind has swept the clues away, so we can no longer guess which way the sand will shift next. The priestess whispers to the all-knowing lady that the three great gods are ready to speak with her. Then, the woman strikes a match and brings a candle to life. Then the smoke shifts and shows the shapes of the three gods. The one in the middle waves hello to the one who knows everything and asks how her journey is going. She claims the god's blessing has kept her safe. But the eldest questions whether the all-knowing one is abandoning her duty on this journey and demands to know where the rest of the prophecy is. The woman said she was just about to reach out exactly about that now that the prophecy has ended, and she thanks the gods for making the predictions come true. The news shakes the three gods to their very core. The tiniest voice claims the news breaks her promise, while the all-knowing one insists the prophecy ends only when the great lord returns. But the woman argues that the gods broke their vow first and warns them never to touch the temple servers. The one who knows everything says the gods were probably scared. The god in the center declares that the woman doesn't want the Almighty to return. So the three gods get angry at her, seeing her as just another person stuck in the sanctuary's well. Before things get too dangerous, the all-knowing one shares good news. The great god is hunting for a successor to take over his powers. So, the final thing he needs for his rise goes straight into the god's hands. Even though the prophecies are over, she can still see that one of the three will gain the true god's power to vanquish evil with justice, bringing a glory and strength that will last forever. The meeting at the crater is finally done. With the prophecy finally done, the three gods are about to go their separate ways. Then the all-knowing one tells his helper where the void's relics are, giving the exact spot while warning that the object is moving fast. With so many shifting factors, a prophecy cannot exist, so the only way forward is to control every possible outcome. Stay ready while the wind still blows, and remember that even the tiny flutter of a fly's wing can send a gust back that changes everything. By controlling it, the gust will come back not to blow against you, but to push you forward. The all-seeing eye crushes the tiny fly with no mercy at all. That's why she insists every single person's job is absolutely vital. The seer notes that a long time has passed since the last visit, mentioning Blair, who carries sacred blood, and the gathering of 13 gods who are coming down. One god owns the main temple, 3 others rule the whole world, 9 more watch the smaller shrines everywhere, and temples still growing lead most of them, so the only goal is to smash every single shrine and set humanity free. Our hero claims Bar-Eric is already dead, leaving just 12 gods standing between us and victory. Walter insists that since the number 13 already counts the eliminated one, they must find more people to join the god-hunting squad for their first mission at the northern base. The 3 of them are already buzzing with excitement. Walter says the link from the site was broken, likely because the sanctuary is growing in that area. Their mission has 2 goals. First, they must find out what secrets that unknown temple holds. The second task is to bring the base serum up to the northern base. Caddy knew everything, yet she wondered if the team was the right mix. There is no doubt that Dale must go, for he is absolutely essential. It's also clear just how important Q is because he has to make sure the serum gets delivered, and for the record, the boy really liked his sister telling him he's important. Hannah can't figure out why Simon and her have to leave since they are officers who should stay at the base. Even though she says she isn't a captain anymore and Simon isn't a unit leader either. But things get even worse for poor Caddy. Now they're useless, and the ex-leader threatens the girl for her boldness. But the girl isn't happy about that and wonders if she's being threatened. So Simon quickly changes the subject. Hannah insists that Simon is the only reason the mission can succeed, even though Yunin doesn't realize yet that the driver holds the key to everything. Hannah tells her friend not to lose hope. She insists the mission hinges on the driver since the elders are already waiting at the destination. So imagine the reward if you're the one to bring them there safely. Simon asks what they can offer him, and the ex-commander suggests giving him a seat on the council. The leader's mind buzzes with endless new ideas. Simon even pictures himself standing before the elders to give a speech. Standing before an imaginary council, he must confront the crazy and dangerous Caddy to solve a huge problem. Hannah notices the driver is already locked down. The ex-commander asks Hugh where they are, and they know they should be spotting the sanctuary soon. The scientist points at the map and insists they've reached the temple. Yet for some strange reason, the ancient ruins still vanish from sight. Hannah thinks something might be there, but the thick dust makes it hard to see. Caddy asks what's wrong, and Q replies that they were supposed to find the sanctuary, but there's nothing around. Dale turns to his partner and asks if they remember what that old man said. Walter says that, to the gods, sanctuaries act like fences. It feels like a field where their followers are sent to be sacrificed. The hero wonders if there are any holy places where no gods dwell. The leader warns that while no god is quite this insane, if a truly crazy one exists, it's best they never meet him. The group stands stunned, wondering exactly what they are seeing. As the sinister giant looms on the horizon, Hannah can't help but wonder if a hunter is out there, quietly setting his trap and waiting with patience. A single drop lands right on Simon's face. He wipes his face, not knowing what he's really wiping away. Then, he lifts his head to find where it came from. High above, several bodies float in the sky, causing red rain to fall from their wounds. The huge red thing sees you as people who left life behind to walk the dark path. The creature sneered at them as fools and crushed the person he was holding between his fingers. The entire group never imagined meeting a god so quickly, since that divine being sees them only as sinners whose corruption has tainted the world. Even as bodies hit the ground, the god declares that his mission is to cut evil right at its root. Those who reject the truth and are filled with wickedness are like a deadly sickness that spreads and harms others. Dale shouts for the group to keep close behind him and his partner. The hero wondered why they couldn't stand their ground against a god. Walter warns that if they do that, they'll never get the information they need. First, you must slip close to a follower to learn the land's secrets and then call upon a demon's power with much greater ease. If gods exist without believers, the only way to learn about them is to fight them, but charging in without a plan could mean losing. The blood god offers the infidels one final moment to turn away from their sins. All that's left for them to do is let go of their bodies and become one with the divine. This is the group's final chance to fall to their knees, accept the blood and flesh offered by their god, who promises that this sacrifice will save them. Dale stares in disbelief at their terrible luck, stuck facing a god with no followers while powerful monsters circle. And the worst part is that the group's non-fighters could get hurt in the blast, leaving the main character frozen and unsure what to do. Dale thinks about which demon to call on just as a strike comes his way. Caddy saves her partner in the nick of time, but instead of leaving it at that, she presses him for his plan, and he reveals he's thinking about how to protect the helpless, which only makes Caddy point out that no one in their group acts that way. She warns that the hero is making a big mistake by thinking the group is weaker than they really are. Except for kids and the old folks, anyone who doesn't believe is treated as an enemy. The engineers from Siam are masters of building every kind of weapon. Hannah asks the scientist to unlock the suppressor, since the two of them have already fought side by side in so many battles. The Xer tells Dale and Catty to sneak into the sanctuary, gather all the info they can, and stay put until they're ready to leave. Our hero asks Hannah how she plans to sneak out of the sanctuary once they're done. Right then, Q shouts that everything is set. As her hand changes shape, she promises to make a way out. Hannah tells Simon to watch the car while he goes to catch one of the specimens. Dylan is stunned to learn his friend is a robot, but Cotty insists the body is a machine while the brain remains human. She doesn't know the whole tale, but a god is the one who changed her body. Hannah unleashes a massive bolt of lightning that wipes the entire field clean. Caddy asks if the protagonist truly believes someone could lead just by playing rock, paper, scissors. Hannah says her battery will hold up during the fight, but she's walking away now. Without a moment's delay, they jump into the truck and zoom off into the distance. Suddenly, something weird and red stuck to Dale's arm. The protagonist tells his partner that the strange things are still moving, but Caddy insists they are just pieces of people. Dale explains that these things don't seem to be alive and there don't appear to be very many of them. Suddenly, an idea sparks in the hero's mind. Caddy questions what her partner found, and our hero admits he isn't sure, but promises that if it works, it will be amazing. Now is the moment to begin the chase. Q says the creature's body is built in a weird way. It wasn't a plant or an animal, but a tiny single-celled creature that seemed to hum with its own energy. Hannah questions what he means, then turns to Gale, asking if he found anything, to which our hero replies that he's just got a hunch. The protagonist holds his breath to see if the creature has finally stopped moving. Q confirms the monster has gone silent since they left the sanctuary and is made of just one single cell, a mystery they can't solve, but Dale insists that this means it is a god. Hannah is trying to understand our hero's strange words, and he clarifies that this body is actually part of a god, just like the unassuming gold statues he found in the temple when he first met Bar Eric. It turned out that as Bar Eric took souls into himself, his own body was slowly changing. The gods don't just eat spirits. They also feast on human bodies. Put simply, this isn't a completely separate thing. If this holy ground is all one giant god, then taking it all might be easier than we thought. Walter tells the group that if they ever have to face a god directly, the first thing they must do is push the god out. The biggest trouble these creatures face is that they can't use their special powers anywhere outside the safe place. For that to happen, a few things must first come true. Remembering this, the first piece of advice is to simply wait. The god of this place split his body into many smaller versions of himself. Dale explains that if they explode, the demons with such power would be numbers 0, 8, and 16. When two demons merge their power into a single being, just imagine how mighty they would become. Dale warns they have only one shot, so Yi and Hig are called to fight. Both hunters leap into the fight, knowing their only chance is to get right next to the main body before striking. The problem is that a massive horde of minions blocks his path, forcing the hunter to face one of them straight on. First, she targets the pawns to remove them, and that is precisely how she begins. She wipes them out with barely a try, striking so hard that the enemy can't even move to stop her. The first wave drops only scraps from the sky. But sadly, she still has many troubles to face, so perhaps Caddy can use the power of the annex to clear a way for her. The girl recalls her partner's warning that she can only use one power at a time, and if things get that dangerous, she must run. The trouble is she simply isn't strong enough to do it. Caddy also remembers everyone mocking her for wanting to run, calling her a coward and weak, and that painful memory gives her the strength she needs. She will never be that person again. Caddy promised herself she'd never run away from anyone again. So, she turns back to strike again. The hunter hurls her blade with all her might, cutting a bloody path straight through the army. Caddy finally got what she wanted, and now it was time to grab the chance. Even with the danger clear, she calls forth the demon geyser. Right as she arrives at the main body, two creatures rush toward her. Before anyone could blink, the two were defeated. So Kati told her partner the way was clear, and Dale thanked his friend from the air. Now that everything is set, it's time to roll up our sleeves and make the plan happen. The leader slams a manual onto the table and orders his two partners to memorize it. Walter says the paper lists every way the two of them can mix their demonic powers. Caddy and the captain start fighting because she's too lazy to study. Suddenly, a single move that could help Dale fight off many enemies sparks his interest. The demon Higgs can twist gravity to his will, but Geyser has the power to control how much mass is moved. By using gravity to pile the enemies into a heavy mass, the demon's power crushes them instantly. But there was a warning hidden in that fighting trick. Suddenly, Hig's eyes appear in the hero's hand, and all the red spirits gather as Kai drives her blade deep into the earth. As the enemy gets dragged toward the center of gravity, the girl struggles not to be torn apart, while a massive sphere of flesh rises in the sky. This is the moment Dale gives the signal to his partner. Caddy Gun pushes hard to bring out the geyser. Right then, she suddenly felt herself getting heavier. As the last creatures get flattened, the pile of bodies starts to press down hard. Dale stepped up to the leader and asked about the warning. Walter warns that using too much heavy mass can hurt your own team, as the crushing pressure starts deep inside the enemy and only grows stronger from there. As things heat up, the temperature keeps climbing until it hits a breaking point. Just then, a huge explosion goes off as Dale dives toward Caddy and calls upon another demon. That's the moment the big boom goes off. As the blood god melts from the fire's heat and turns into bones, a giant hand shields the heroes from the blast. The blast was so powerful it smashed right through the safety measures. The shock wave hits Dale and begins to change him, too. Chaos fills the air as bodies fly everywhere, and Caddy rushes to help her partner. That's when a mocking voice chides them for their hard work. The god tells them their only hope is to blow up the sanctuary to force their people out. The sky creature asks the true god, the scourge of the new world, what he fears, and then the giant being rushes toward the humans in a flash. The celestial asks why he was given the power of blood and life, wondering if it's linked to these small creatures Dale is watching, and the mention of blood and life suddenly grabs Dale's attention. The god is about to share a cool fact with the people. Every second, the blood rushing through his veins births thousands of tiny cells just for him to use. And whenever a foreign intruder is spotted, the body launches a fierce defense by multiplying white blood cells up to 10 times their usual number. Dale shoves his partner aside just in time to save them. When we first see the new monsters, we notice something feels off right away. These new creatures feel tougher than before. It's scary that we can make these things over and over, but there might still be a chance. Except for the protagonist Han, who reacted strangely by getting hurt, the last attack clearly wasn't normal. Suddenly, Gale is completely soaked in blood. Caddy is stuck with no way to help her friend. While the divine being declares that humans are a disease and must continue his mission, they must be destroyed forever. Dale thinks all that talk from the celestial is just nonsense, because he doesn't believe salvation means stealing souls and turning people into puppets. But for the god, healing is found only in the pain the body endures. Life isn't about the body we leave behind, but the soul that keeps singing forever. The god keeps preaching that salvation comes from pain and flesh, but the hero screams in hatred, telling Dale to shut the god up because these gods are the world's plague and must be destroyed. Before he could even finish, he was swallowed whole by the flesh. With a heart-shaped mark, the blood god asks Dale to keep his promise to destroy them, and for a single heartbeat, nothing moves at all. Cathy watches closely while Ka wonders if he should light the fuse inside the hero's heart. Despite her fear, Hannah insists it's not the time, but then something suddenly happens. Something weird is starting to take shape, and it calls Mokes right to the spot. Catty knew something was off in that very instant. The god above hears the trembling shaking the whole world. Hannah's assistants are scared thinking it's an earthquake, but she knows the truth. The ancient monster Mokes, the flesh-eating worm and king of disasters, is finally here, and even though it's huge, she is tiny compared to the giant demon. With its massive tail, the infernal creature crushes the protagonist while Molax demands to know who dared call him by name, only for our hero to admit he summoned the giant worm for its power, prompting Dale to ask for a pact just as the tail strikes him again. Suddenly, the hero is smashed flat. Molax laughs at the idea that anyone would even try to sign a deal with him. Dale shares everything he knows about the demon. He heard that Molax is a reborn ancient god who eats the flesh of old bodies to gain power, but the hero knows this won't work, even as Moke calls him ignorant and Dale promises to feed him, leaving a heavy silence in the air. The hero promises the demon he will chase down the gods who came to Earth, and he gives his power to the giant worm. Mokes confesses this human has no ordinary soul, so he asks who the real hero is. Dale pushes his chest open for the demon to take. Then he tells us that he made a deal with the void's owner. The human opens his body like an empty cup, not to catch death, but to welcome the living gods. First, it's his hand that dreams of changing. The legs were shown not long after. They are bound by a promise to tear each other apart whenever they choose, so they can hunt with total freedom. Kadi is seeing something truly one of a kind. She realizes this is a demon taking over her. Even the god himself is lost on what is happening. The flying figure asks if the giant is the true form of the living god. The demon promised to take their life force, and the scene shifted back to the group getting ready for their journey. Walter picks up the phone to reach Kadi for a chat. The leader tells the girl to watch out for danger. The hunter boasts that they now have the power to defeat the gods, so why should she still be careful? Walter warns that they must stay careful, because the only way for Dale to beat the gods is to let them take over his mind. Kadi has no clue what that means because being possessed isn't the same thing as summoning powers to use. You literally hand your body over to a demon, but remember that since demons hate the gods, they are not automatically on humanity's side either. Mokes holds a spell ready in his hands. He commands the living god to spit out all his power, and the army does exactly as told. Even the divine being tries to refuse the creature's order in vain, for soon he releases everything just as the creature demands. Kati notices the air is toxic and realizes she is in danger too. With nowhere else to go, the hunter turns and runs from the fight. But as she moves forward, something suddenly grabs her eye. In the middle of the desert, there is a strange portal standing there. It's too late. Kati falls ill from the poison she breathed in. But she knows she can't fall there. Just as things look hopeless, a stranger steps in and masks her face, allowing Hannah and Kati to soar away together. Even the old captain couldn't believe that Dale had vanished from that body so completely, leaving not a single trace behind. Mokes discovers the body is even better than he had hoped. The god has realized the truth. He was wrong to think his enemy was just a sickness, for it is now rotten flesh that has long gone beyond saving. Molax finds the choice of words hilarious. The demon secretly agrees that God is right. The divine voice says the only cure for his enemy is to cut off and throw away the rotten part. But the moment those words end, the giant strikes with webs of blood shooting from his hand, and the demon just stands there, looking completely unshaken. Yet the old, cell-made beasts seem to stand guard over their brand-new master. Then those monsters burst apart into millions of tiny pieces. Even God doesn't know why his own flesh and blood turned on him. Molax stands surrounded by his new slaves, joking that if they truly want him back as a god, he'll give them what they need. The demon gives a quiet nod, and the attack begins. A wave crashes hard against the god, while someone not far away watches the whole thing. A drone keeps a safe distance to record the fight while Simon screams for Dale to win, and Q scrambles to find a spot where he can watch the action. Just as things get tense, Hannah shows up right then to ask for help. She frantically begs for the antidote. He wonders if the god hurt Kati. As Hannah gives the injection and explains that the demon did this to Kati, everyone is left wondering why Dale would have done it. The old leader claims it was the demon, not her partner, so they must be careful of him as well. Simon says the fight is over, but Hannah thinks it ended too fast, especially since Dale hasn't turned back yet, and Huey reminds everyone that only giving power to the demon will break the possession, just as the captain said. But since the contract isn't over, Cotton wakes up and realizes this isn't the real person. She recalls spotting a weird gate inside the sanctuary. She noticed other versions of herself standing guard at the gate, which made no sense if they were supposed to be fighting her. A god would never make a being that looks just like him. Mokes mutters that it's not enough, but when the demon stares at the massive corpse, he realizes this isn't him. Kati believes that Shurer is a distinct part of the divine. While standing inside the swirling portal, Molax hears a voice calling out to him. The voice promises that the demon will never win, and right then, the great gates swing wide open. A voice inside him whispers that he must save humanity. But what about the demon, and what is he fighting for? The god tells them there's no need to fight, for he is the sacred blood and his enemy is just a disease, meaning humanity can never be defeated by a foe like him. The blood god stands up from his chair and sees that his enemy has changed in ways far deeper than just his look. He's trying to find out if the demon is the kind of weapon that can actually slay a god. The god realizes the trickster has been taken over. The god of blood sees it as pathetic when those who deny him use a hellish creature like a tool. Mox flicks his hand, and his power tears the organic floor apart. With the god hanging from the ceiling, he sees that the demon just wants to steal his power, so the Lord of Blood decides to give the creature exactly what it wants. Before anything else, he needs that strange object from the nothingness. The crowd wonders how this god knows about the weapon. Hannah makes a pretty good guess. That's how the northern base lost its connection. She holds onto the idea that the gods might just be ordinary people. Walter set the artifact down on the table and declared that his hunch was right. This thing looks just like the Void artifact in every way. The gods seem like Dale, mere humans wielding power from another world, and Blair Yen is a name that every respected unbeliever knows. Known as a saint who saved countless lives and the leader of the northern outcasts, this man named Blair Yen somehow became a god. The one who knows everything tells us that the gods are trying to save us. Blair is furious at the woman's words after so many lives lost to gods, but a crushing pain suddenly knocks the base leader down. It looks like a shard of Riv is piercing the man's heart, but luckily she carries a spare one, and the all-knowing one gives Blair a chance to see that the Master of Infinity has planned it all, promising that things will make sense, even though ignorance isn't a sin but the foolishness born from it is. The all-knowing one invites the man to stand right next to God. The new Blair isn't just trying to heal sick people. He vows to rescue all of humanity from death by stealing the demon's heart and carrying out God's plan. As the divinity drags on with his endless speech, Mox grows irritated and slips behind his opponent. Blair didn't notice, but sharp claws were closing in around him. The tips catch him, letting the demon drain his power. Molax's tears open his chest to find the power of blood and life, while Blair insists he cannot be defeated because the demon inside him has already started digesting the room. Since the temple lives inside his belly, he carries his entire world with him. A giant hand erupts from the god's back to pierce Mox, causing the demon's body to burst apart in an explosion. The scary beast crawls along the ground, unbroken, because Mox finds the idea of living inside a god's belly more than he can handle. The beast spews black energy at Blair, who blocks the hit, only to realize it was a trick to hide its true move. Mox jumps in with all his might to strike the god. The demon is about to smash open a path straight to the heart. The divinity waves his magic to push back the next attack, while Blair gathers all his power into his fist to form a glowing spear that drives straight into the creature. Molax pulls the energy out of the blast just as it tries to tear the creature's body apart. Two giants charge at each other at lightning speed and crash together with equal power. The demon and the god lock eyes, staring each other down. Molax laughs at his own doom, yet the hungry beast keeps its hunt going. The demon swears he'll spare Blair's soul if he gives in, but the blood god's face instantly hardens, proving that the real meal won't start until time passes. Hundreds of hands grip the demon as Blair warns, "If you want to hunt, you should never have walked into the prey's mouth." Because of this silly mistake, the god thinks he has won the battle. Blair stands ready like a surgeon about to start the heart operation, but everything goes wrong right away. Mox calls the god a fool for turning this room into his home. Blair still shivers remembering the first strike and dreading the poison the monster injected into him. In the end, the blood god was always the one being hunted. From the very beginning, there was no fight, and those words allowed Mox to slip right out of his grasp, proving that even a hunted victim can still resist. If that weren't so, there would be no fun, but the creature had just injected a deadly sickness into him that could wipe out the entire world. Put simply, it's like a curse from hell that makes a living person rot as if they were already dead. During the swelling stage, your whole body starts to puff up. In the next step, the fat melts and flows out of every opening. Now, during the decomposition phase, the flesh slowly melts away. In this fading stage, just the back and the blue skin are left standing. The god's rotting body is pierced, and the artifact slides out from the very tip of the tail. Just as he said he would, Molax lets the soul stay inside Blair's body, so he can see his final moments without any trouble. Finally, the demon fades away until there is nothing left but dust. Blair is still awake and sees a car driving by. In his last breath, the fallen god tells the Master of Infinity he's sorry he couldn't finish the job, but he managed to do the hardest part. Sitting inside the car, nobody realizes that a piece of the divine being is still alive. Blair is grateful for the chance to send a tiny piece of himself to the world that's coming. His seed is strong enough to swim into the tank and mix with another pile of flesh. Miles, a battle-hardened agent in his late 30s, stands ready for action. Another agent from the northern base named Elena, who is 23 years old. Another person was found, a man named Araf who is 52 years old. Out of all the people seen, 1,387 others were recognized. All the unbelievers from the northern base were sacrificed in the region's god's ritual. The divinity's identity was revealed, but Walter flew into a rage when he found out, and his leader was broken by the discovery that his childhood friend did such a terrible thing. The only mystery left is what actually happened. 15 years ago, Blair stood before his class and explained that life feels like a clever machine, built over billions of years by pure chance and luck. But what if a program could turn this messy, complicated making process into something truly alive? Religion calls this program the soul, and it is what guides the machine. Every choice you make reveals who you truly are, even down to whether you hop in a taxi or stick with the bus. Deciding to listen to what a person of faith has to say. With that, the algorithm is ready to turn raw data into the sights, sounds, and feelings of reality. Once these signals reach the brain for decoding, our entire lives are guided by this invisible algorithm. To this man, there is no such thing as a soul. But someone in the room disagrees, so the professor immediately calls on the student who spoke, even though he didn't mean to be heard. With no other choice, the student pulls out his phone to show the breaking news that the rumors were finally true. The anchor says a source has just confirmed that shady soul experiments were found in the East. A regional rep just confirmed the rumors were true. The man said they finally figured out where the soul lives inside the human brain. Then the scientist explained they weren't just doing this for research. Blair spots the young Walter on the news. Later that night in the city, the two friends sit in a bar with Blair, still stunned by the discovery of the soul and embarrassed by the young scientist's lecture, where Walter felt it wasn't so bad while Blair felt terrible about it. Still unsure, the young professor asks if what they found is a real soul or just a fancy name the lab gave to something else. Walter admits that things don't make much sense, and he only figured it out not too long ago. The scientist passes the proof to his friend and mentions the company's plans, leaving Blair even more amazed that they finally have evidence. This is the two-ball experiment, where a particle fired into empty space will land on one of two buttons. Buttons light up at random, fusing one of the balls into the track. The odds are always a perfect 50-50. First, a prediction test began with someone watching, but the experiment split into two groups, and one person was told the ball would drop to the right. Even though nothing should have changed, the data showed that people who guessed the ball would land on the other side actually raised the odds of success to 52%. And the distance between them just got wider as more people joined in. When people decide their own future, their mind sends out the first spark of a choice that feels like free will, not a soul. Blair says that 3 years ago his friend gave him a strange book, and now another mystery hangs in the air about which company is running these tests, because even Walter has no idea what they plan to do with the results. Blair wonders if his friend's wife is still leading the East, but the scientist reveals they've actually split up because she's away on work and he misses her so much, which nearly gives his buddy a heart attack with the joke. Walter tells them to go and covers the bill. When Blair spots the family photo and finally makes the connection, he asks if Walter's daughter is the reason. He thinks this wild tale of spirits and silly tests proves the soul is alive, but the scientist says it's actually the exact opposite. After Walter visited the grave of his late daughter and spoke with a stranger who claimed death isn't the end but the start of new growth, he realized Anna had finished her own journey on her own terms, leaving him to honor her passing while Blair casually asked about his friend's wife, only to learn she had gone very far away. She traveled all the way to the moon. It turned out that her business trip took her much farther than anyone expected. The rich play on a completely different scale. But if you take a closer look, you can spot a crack in the moon. Blair finally spots it for the first time. Even now, that scar on the moon is still visible. That will be the final thing his dry body ever sees. A woman was sent to find out what happened, and she discovered that Blair was neither alive nor dead. Now she calls upon the great and only God to give out the reward or punishment. As the moon turns into a judging eye for the Lord of Sacred Blood, it watches Blair's soul with its great gaze. Even though he was still young, the doctor promised to spend his whole life saving people. Later, that same man shows up with a weapon in hand, just as he promised he wouldn't. Walter tries to drag his partner away to catch the plane, but Blair refuses to leave the mother and her baby behind. They race across the ground, clutching the baby tight, knowing they still have time to make it. With humanity on the brink of disappearing, Blair no longer cared about his promises and only wanted to live, yet something still pulled him to save that child. Panting heavily inside the cramped plane, they nearly missed their flight, so Walter quickly asks how the baby is doing. In that split second, not even Blair had the words to answer the question. The plane flew right out of the war zone. Suddenly, a massive explosion shatters the crumbling buildings. 5 years later, at the Northern Unbelievers' base, the war had ended and the world they once knew was left behind like a fading shadow. This world is lost to the gods, and there is no hope left for us. A man steps forward to speak with the commander. It looks like he's desperately needed by a patient. Blair finds himself stuck in a loop, always asking himself the same question again and again. Why does he keep trying to save everyone? A woman sits outside, waiting for the surgery to be over. Is he acting out of love for all people or a deep desire to do what is right? The woman wonders if her husband will make it through this. The doctor shared some wonderful news with her. She nearly bursts into tears when she finds out everything turned out perfectly. If Blair had known it would turn out this way, he would have studied surgery instead. But the truth is, for this man, there are no causes at all. His son pulls his hand to get his attention. Blair warns the child not to call him father, or he'll never be able to get married. The doctor scolded the child for sneaking into the surgery area, even though he had been told not to. But the little boy just wanted to give his dad the chocolate cookie he had baked. Navi recalled the reason he keeps saving people. Because of this boy, he can only react by hugging him, knowing that in this world, life is just a tiny spark in a giant storm. All he wants to do is hold him tight in his hands until the storm is finally over. He wished his little spark could shine a little longer, but it faded too soon. Blair feels terrible because he couldn't keep him safe. It looks like the people from the sanctuary are snatching up every child they meet and putting them out of their misery. It looks like the kids slipped away from the base without anyone noticing. Blair can hardly speak, and the leader tries to say the boy is his own child, admitting he couldn't keep him safe, and wondering if death is really the greatest gift life can give. Walter can't possibly call this the crown of life when all-knowing voices say death is curable. And the true God has even given Blair the mission to heal the deadly curse that plagues this land. Using the strength of his own blood and life, he can pull off this miracle. Blair gains the amazing power to bring back every subordinate who died, even his own son. Everyone will wake up again in the sacred fields. So everyone gets to live forever. Blair finds the thought of living forever strangely captivating. He recalls Walter's words that death is life's perfect partner, where each one honors the other. The doctor refuses to believe that death is just a natural part of life. He'd rather face destruction and end his life as a human than join the ranks of these crazy people. Lar raises a sacred promise on behalf of his son. The man vows to protect his child from being destroyed, but the all-knowing one claims he only says this because he doesn't understand the joys of eternity, while Lar tells the woman to shut up and stop talking nonsense. To her, not knowing the truth isn't a crime, but being born with a broken mind and staying that way is the real sin, and the seer says the vessel they found is still full of filth. Even though it's hard, he remains the only one chosen to hold this power, so she asks the other woman to show him a bit of the truth. The woman moves, and her divine magic sends a wave of sharp pain through Blair. The blow hits the doctor so hard he can't stand up. The seer speaks to him once more, offering him the power of blood and life again. He accepts the heart with little sense. Once more, the seer tells us this is a gift from God. The all-seeing one whispers a brand new secret to Blair. Right now, a tear rolls down the dying man's cheek. A heavy sense of regret fills his heart. He sits there, wondering what he could have possibly done to make things go so wrong. The woman warned that living in the dark was a sin. Asking a demon how he lost his powers was pointless, since it was believed Blair's punishment was to return human suffering. Yet he still managed to complete his important mission. The girl claps her hands, and a spray of blood shoots out from between them. Now that he is washed clean and free from sin, they eagerly await the day he returns to the illusion fields. Trisha stands alone clutching a dirty cloth, waiting for someone who is running late. She tells the man off, telling him he must never be too early or too late for the Creator's plans, leaving no room for anything else to change. The very first ally of the Northern Sanctuary, Cyan, doesn't seem to care at all. Then the guest asks the girl if she called him to confess. Trisha jokes that Celian is the funniest comedian around. She points him toward the northern base of the Unbelievers as a gift for him. Celian looks uneasy about these ideas and wonders if something went wrong with the Almighty's plans. This place was supposed to be the new god's safe haven, yet it seemed to bring the same terrible end as Bar Eric. Trisha wonders if he doubts God's plan, but Celian shakes his head, explaining that two enemies have just been defeated. And if the great god's plan is to defeat the other gods, Trisha won't let doubt stop her. The girl snaps her fingers to unleash her magic, for she knows that doubt is a sin. A swift slash nearly strikes the entity, and the building is sliced right in half. Silly thinks the answer is too harsh for such an easy question, wondering if the great god plans to make up for the other god's defeat. Suddenly, two figures step forward to guard their master. Trisha laughs at another funny joke and decides to write it down. It seems these two remain very close to their master, along with the second affiliate, Ren, and the third, Nadira. Trisha claims that the true god's plan is what Omniscience is doing. That was all he needed to hear, so she turned and walked away. Silly wonders why he should head to the northern base. She tells him he'll only know the truth when he arrives. But that is exactly what he has been looking for all along, because God's plan can't be completed until he gets there. Trisha is hoping he really likes the gift she gave him. Nadara keeps teasing the girl to fight, but Ren says she should have done that before she left. Stillion felt the whole talk was weird because his partner hated the other woman, and Trisha was just a servant of the great creator who had left something out. The god asks if his teammates from the last battle killed the orbit, and they apologize, while Ren admits he felt like he was stabbing something he couldn't reach. Stillion realized that her attack was a power so vast even he couldn't stop it, coming from someone who was neither god nor demon, leaving him wondering who this Trisha really was. Nadura doesn't care who gave the gift. All that matters to her is the fun of opening presents. Stillion recalled that the servant had handed him the very thing he had been searching for all along. Suddenly, the god understood exactly what she meant. The group finally reaches the mouth of the cave. Simon asked the question, and we learned that this base had been rebuilt deep inside a mine. This spot is the most famous place known to those who do not believe. That's where the northern region calls home. He expected the place to still be standing, but now there isn't a single soul left here. Cody felt right at home in this place. First, Hannah tells Simon to find a room for Dale to rest, and then Cuddy must go look for a store with serum samples. She and Q will race to find the control room and tell the eastern base what happened. At the eastern end of the enemy captain's office, a soldier rushes in to say someone from the east is trying to reach them. Hannah urges the leader to get ready for the big news she's got. But Walter shakes his head and says nothing will shake him now that he's heard the last report. The group leader is clueless about the report until Walter fills him in on the mission's details, which only the commander knows thanks to Hannah, who never sent the report. Even though the words still echo in shock, they are all true. Looking back at the records, we see the northern base sent its report on the very day the ritual took place. Apparently, the blood god did it, and Walter says it wasn't help at all but a warning with two meanings. For the first time, the unbeliever's home is no longer a safe place. The moment the war started, cracks began to show up on the moon. These very cracks show exactly where every temple lies hidden. So they picked those safe spots far away from the sanctuaries, because Q now thought it was too risky for the unbelievers to hide everyone in just one place. Caddy steps in to remind them that since they can now fight back against oppression, it's best to stay united. Though Hannah worries that the truth about Blair will soon be discovered. Walter agrees that this could lead to chaos and surrender, perhaps even marking the end for the unbelievers. Cody ignores the cowards, letting them spill their secrets without a second thought. All she wants to know is what the second warning means, and someone answers that defeating the two gods was always part of the plan. Stillion keeps answering, explaining that those who doubt still don't see the full picture. The god thought Trisha's answer was too complicated, but he loved her gift, making it a clear confession of love. He offers her a date if they meet again, and Caddick spots the man standing beside her. Cillian waves hello to his little sister. A man leaning on a cane steps forward and shouts at everyone to fight. He orders every unborn child to have no mercy. Only those who win will get to be born. The strength of everything under your feet is the promise that humanity gives. Treat the flesh of your brothers with care. You must swallow the blood of your sisters. The god tells everyone to celebrate the big carnival as the victor marks their first year with a grand descent. Celion whispers to his sister that they've gone too far to turn back now, because out there is just as dark as here, and unless they take the hard steps needed to stay alive, they'll both fall and die. The trouble was that Caddy had spent the last few years living and chatting with these kids. As she says those words, her brother cuts her off, reminding her of Celion's warning to stay away from the weak, a fate Caddy always knew was coming. After all, the world runs on jungle rules where power is right, but the divine beings suddenly notice something strange happening in their northern sanctuary. These two walked away as the winners, and today is their special day. Now they belong to the northern sanctuary. The god tells the Great Father to welcome the new children, give them power and name them. The awesome force of violence is Sven. Celion complains that it's been ages since he saw his little sister, and he's still worried that she's only hanging out with the weak. Right as Caddy pushes the injection home, she lets them know it's over with being siblings. Afterward, she will call upon Geyser, whose gift is to balance the scales. Soon she calls for Anik to lend her strength, and together they turn the pin's sharp tip into a deadly weapon. Desperate for it to work, She hits him over and over while screaming in hatred, only to quickly realize the truth. Her strike barely left a mark on him. Celine admits Caddy has learned some cool tricks, but she's still too weak to handle the huge pressure to get free. Caddy calls out to Gizur once more. Despite the heavy pressure, Selayon stands tall and realizes why her father has been searching for her. He figured out that the power is coming from the artifact, and even worse, she is losing her hair, but Seelan says his sister has improved a lot compared to the past when she would only run away. Kat's anger takes control, and instead of running away from fights, she steps right in. Hannah tells the girl to move aside. Just as she raises her weapon, the group's leader remembers what the man said about them being weak. All the energy is packed into this shot, but it seems her arm has been cut off. Just as things look darkest, Rain slips into the battle unnoticed, only for the swordsman to scoff at her and say it took her forever to get ready. This is a terrible mess, with Dale's deadly heart bomb sickle gripped in his right hand, and Celian suddenly noticing something is wrong. He grieves for Rain while knowing the void artifact is hiding somewhere inside the facility. The two women are both left wondering how he could possibly know that. The swordsman has already looked through half the building with no luck, while Mandura searches the other half. Walter is just about to shout an order to everyone in the room when the connection cuts out, while Natara accidentally steps on something she has no idea what it is. Right then, her communicator beeps, and she learns all about the mysterious artifact. As she's gathering more details, she bumps into someone, and Simon thinks the girl is a survivor from the base. Before Nadira could even finish speaking, she confirmed she'd spotted the target, and the impressed Seelan immediately told her to grab it. He tells his sister they're leaving together, warning her that if she says no, he'll force her to go. Caddy dares him to make her do anything, and when everyone realizes what she's up to, Q shouts to stop her plan. The girl calls for Shimolo, and Hannah wonders if she's ever done something like this before, while Q explains that it's her very first time summoning a top-tier demon. People say that not even Dale is strong enough to face these monsters. This is the unit's desperate final move, calling a wild, untamable demon to save the day when nothing else works, which means the demon will take over the summoner's body, and Caddy begs the scary new host to kill Seelan. Even her own brother can't believe his eyes, knowing that the summoner will die by the time it's all over. Caddy stares at the list of 1024 tiny demons, 256 medium ones, and 108 big ones, then panics because there are just too many names to remember. Dale gives her the